The All Black podcast is powered by our official cloud software partner, SAP, helping our teams in black become the best run teams in sport. To listen to this episode and all the All Black podcasts, subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere you get your podcasts. This is the All Blacks podcast.
Kia ora whānau, welcome to the All Black podcast powered by SAP. The 2024 All Black season is close to kicking off. There is always change after a Rugby World Cup, and this season is no different. New head coach, new assistant coaches, and no doubt some new players as well, which is extremely exciting. To start looking at the season ahead, we chat to one element of a few that has stayed the same, assistant coach Jace Ryan. Thank you for zooming in, mate, on a Sunday arvo. Hope the connection's not too bad for the listeners, and I hope you've had a couple of cups of tea and had a relaxing Sunday. Thanks for zooming in, mate. I appreciate it.
No worries. Great to be back on and chat some footy. How good,
mate? How good? And you know, I'm sure you've been a busy man all year, but does it sort of ramp up as we build into the season and we're in playoffs of Super and I think June 26th we've got to announce a squad. You know, do things really ramp up for you and your role for the All Blacks in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks?
Yeah, it does. Like now's the time where you're looking at your players, excuse me, in the final series. So that's different to what we've sort of looked in the round robin side of it with Super Rugby, when you're having a look at your current All Blacks and then your potential guys that have got a real chance. You're sort of looking at consistency week to week, and now the ones that are still alive, you get to see them in pressure situations. So having a look at body language under pressure and off the ball efforts is a big one.
Mate, it's hard to believe, just talking to you before we started the pod here, that you're coming into your third season. It seems like in some regards you just got there, but it's all flashed before our eyes a little bit. Before we get into the reflecting on the last couple of years, what about yourself, mate? Like, we talk heaps in rugby about player load and making sure that those boys get a bit of rest and relaxation as well from the pressures of test footy, but coaching's pretty full on, like it's you live and breathe it with the players. I'm sure when they're all done and dusted and sort of they're unwinding, whether they're back playing cards or PlayStation in the evening or whatever it may be, you're probably got the computer up and scouting opposition and doing a bit more work and coaches meetings. What do you do post World Cup over summer to unwind and make sure that when you rip in again, which you very much are at the moment, that you're good to go and you're refreshed and you're challenged and all that good stuff?
Yeah, there's probably a couple of parts to the answer of that question. Firstly, I think when you're at a pinnacle event like the World Cup, where you got the best of the best at their best, players and coaches, that's what you strive for. And obviously, we had pretty good high and getting to the final, and then after that came a pretty good low of not getting the job done. So I think on a personal note, look, it took a lot out of me. I was cooked. I was absolutely buggered. I don't think I could have given any more, and that's the way it should be when you go to a World Cup, especially a World Cup with the All Blacks. So it took me a couple of months at least, really, to get myself reset before I started thinking about too much footy and what was next. But it took a lot of time and away with the family down south, and we placed down Otamatata, so you get on the water and have a bit of downtime there, and then I think a little bit of a change up for myself was I spent some time with Nigel Beach and found out a little bit about myself, to be fair, and did a lot of work with him on my mobility and breathing under pressure, and it was really good of how I could use those sort of tools in the coach's box and make good decisions at half time. And with that, you got to sort of be the best version of yourself and be in shape, and that's what we ask the players to do. So had a bit of a reset, really, a full warrant of fitness, and if you want to call it, and I'm ready to go. I'm really looking forward to it. He was great for me.
Mate, I was actually going to say that when you jumped on the call. You're looking healthy, mate, which is awesome. You're looking really good, and you obviously that's awesome to hear. You've been spending a bit of time on yourself, and from what I could see from the modern world on social media, your wake surfing or your scurfing looks like it's coming along nicely. Is that big part of summer is getting out on the water, barbecue and out on the boat with family and friends. Like, it's a great part of the world down there. Like, I've got a couple of mates who have places in Otamatata and they just won't shut up about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a bit of a secret. It's probably not now, but no, it's a good little spot. It's good people. It's real New Zealand for me, and good place to get away and get on the water. I love that, and you got to be able to do that. You got to be able to turn the old phone off and
Yeah,
have a bit of a reset. So I feel like I've done that, but now I'm ready to go full throttle.
mate, I love it. Mate, just, a little bit of fun, but before we get into the last couple of seasons, I've always, one thing that's, perhaps a bit of a mystery to some rugby fans, myself, being a back and a little bit scared of the dark arts is, front row play. Like, when I'm in the pub watching the footy or I'm with mates at the rugby club, any sort of good front row chat you can throw at me, like maybe some terms or what to look for if I see a scrum go down to make myself seem a little bit more educated when I'm talking to some of the big boys.
No, probably not. Oh, look, it's yeah, there's a bit that goes on in there, isn't there? But I think what I've been impressed with Super Rugby this year and the front row boys in particular, if you're touching on them, is we have got some genuine competition, and
Yeah,
we've got a little bit of everything as well, which is exciting. Right from the whole three really,
yeah.
especially around the hooker, we're going to have some good power there, and the prop mix we believe is going to be right on, and somewhere that a part of our game and our team that we want to be a step ahead and really world leading that area, and we believe that with our props we can do that this year.
It's encouraging, isn't it? We'll get to that, but it is amazing how in any given season, people front up and see an opportunity and play really well, which is fantastic. But I want to talk a little bit first about the last 2 or 3 years, like, fantastic time and apprenticeship at Canterbury and the Crusaders, I suppose. But, into our third season now, which is pretty exciting. What have the last 2 seasons been like with the All Blacks? Like, it is different, mate. It's not a season-long campaign. You have your time, you come together for your July test matches, you break again, you go away for the Rugby Championship, you break again, you go away and end your tour. Last year it was a World Cup. Like, it's really different. And I know, you hinted it around what you did over summer. You're always looking to grow, always looking to learn, always looking to be on the grass. Like, what's been some of the biggest learnings over the last couple of years being in a international environment? I know you did some stuff with Fiji, but with the All Blacks.
Oh well, it's a special team to be part of, and it's a privilege, and it's the expectation of the whole nation is on
Yeah.
you, and that's just a beautiful thing, really, and that's exactly what you want as a coach, coaching your national team, your country. So I love that. I love the blackness of it. I love the jersey. I love game day, getting on the bus and really feeling that, getting to the ground and seeing the boys do the haka and the anthem. That's a couple of things that I find really special that I really, really look forward to in that part of the week, because effectively my job's done in a way because it's up to
Yeah.
the boys. But I think, and I've sort of said this a couple of times to some people, the difference I think with the All Blacks and the Test arena and the All Blacks in particular is we haven't got a home. The
Yes.
big, the big comparison is with the All Blacks. There's two things. We haven't got a home and we don't have a preseason. So, your super clubs, they have their own home. They've got their own coffee shop. They've got their own mates that they're close to every day. They know their ins and outs of their location. Whereas every week for us, we're in a different location. So, and we're always on the move. We're having meetings at airports. We're always transitioning. Even if we are at home, if it's a New Zealand test around, say it's at Eden Park, well, the boys stay in the hotel. They often don't go home to their hotel, so they're still away, and then we go to Dunedin. So we're always moving. So you got to be really efficient with your time. Getting back to the pre-season side of it, we don't have one of those. We have, I think, as a squad this year after the Super Rugby final, the boys come in the Wednesday after that are in that final, and then basically we've got a couple of days for that week, and then the next week is the test week.
Yeah. Wow.
So your relationships, and again, for myself personally, I do a lot of work with the forwards coaches and the super teams. We've got a good little WhatsApp group set up, and I'll send them clips during the week, just a couple of things I've seen, or they might ask me some stuff. So I think over the last 2 or 3 years with that side of it, I think we've built some good relationships with the Fords coaches. I know that they're all good men, and I'm learning some stuff off them. They've given me some absolute gold, and we've done a couple of projects with them around how we can be better and just be open. We're not, we don't know everything and don't pretend to know everything. So you got to have that willingness to learn and work with them during this period. And then when they get into finals, they get into it.
Yeah, I love it. And is that, was that when you talk about, not having a base, not having a home, not having a preseason, needing to do meetings in airports or wherever you can open the laptop, did you go in with your eyes open? Did someone give you a heads up, or you're literally learning on the fly? Because it was, when you joined the team, it was a bit of a baptism of fire, got the job, and the next week, you're into it. Coming from, really a completely different way to set up a rugby season.
Yeah, well, effectively had one training in Wellington and then went to South Africa. So she was a bit of a whirlwind, but that was good because it didn't give me too much time to think about it and complicate things. I knew what I guess we needed to work on. It was pretty clear what needed to be worked on. So we just got on with it. But yeah, you do get used to All Black life and what that looks like. And again, you got your local maybe reporter at your super club that's on the sideline wanting to get some comments for the local paper, whereas All Black training, there's 30, 40 plus journalists and cameras, and she never goes away right from when you get to the hotel and on the bus and all that sort of thing. It's just constant, and she's a special brand, and it's our job as coaches to enhance that and make the most of our time when we've got it in our meetings and keep it nice and efficient. But I think, just going back to that super side, I think we're in a unique position as All Black coaches that all our super teams, they're coached really, really well. It's a point of difference for us. Their coaches are doing a great job for the players, and then we come into the All Black level and we've got to make them step up even more.
Mate, you handled yourself and always do really well in the media, but was that, when you talked a little bit about being cooked after the World Cup, is it as much that, the off-field stuff, or that you have to deal with, and as much as it is trying to set the players up to succeed on game day, like is it the just the amount of things there are to do, I suppose, across the spectrum of the role? Because like you say, we're all tuned in, we're all engaged. The expectation is really high, and almost that's the stuff you need to break from as much as working with the boys and trying to help them grow and improve as players.
Yeah, I think so. I think something Steve Hansen said to me when I got the job is once you come into the All Blacks, your life changes forever. You can be in your local franchise club, I guess, and you're known in that city, but now it's New Zealand wide.
Yeah.
It's worldwide, and it's constantly there. But that's exciting, Like I think the on the grass and the coaching meeting part, that's what we do. That's part of coaching and making players better, and that's the area we love, with the whistle and getting on with that stuff. But there's definitely a higher expectations around the commercial side with the All Blacks, how that runs, and the branding and sponsorship, working with a broad range of sponsors that require their time, and that's good. That's all part of it, and that's part of your job, and you gotta expect that that's going to happen, and embrace it and see that as opportunities to connect with people and learn from different companies.
Mate, I love it. I know it's hard to probably pick out two or three things, but highs and lows over the last couple of years. There's the obvious stuff around games won and lost, but was there little moments that perhaps we don't see on camera that have been particularly satisfying, and vice versa? Has there been anything along the way that you've learned in particular from some of the challenges you face? Because like you say, it's a pressure cooker environment, and I'm sure the highs are highs and the lows are learnings, but I'm sure they're tough.
Yeah, look, I think, I'll never forget my first test match, and never forget the first test win as such, which was Ellis Park. And to win over there as an All Black coach was really special. And I'll remember that forever. And what have I learned? Or a couple of highlights. I just love seeing players get better, and little wee gains that you see them make as a rugby player, but then a couple of little convos you might have with them outside of the game where it could be just giving them a little bit of direction around a few things, and those one-on-one conversations where you think, one of the boys might be just not quite picking a few things up at training. You just bring them in your room and have a green tea and have a wee catch up and chew the fat and just give them a little bit of confidence. Like it's, players now and again, they get that little bit of self-doubt. I have it myself,
Yeah.
where you think, shit, am I actually good enough to be here? And you just got to stick to your plan and embrace that, because that's, everyone gets that, and that's the expectation of in the blackness of the jersey and the All Black legacy that is on you constantly, that you just want to continue.
Mate, we're starting to look forward a little bit. Camp in January, sort of what was the purpose? Who'd you get in? What did you learn? Like it was sort of, I suppose, you hinted at it a little bit before. You don't have a preseason, so you've got to grab these windows to get the lads in and probably build a bit of a relationship, perhaps.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of parts of that camp. First thing, I was looking around. I kept looking around for Guzzler and Colsey and Sammy.
So
And
good.
Nug, I was like, oh shit, where's the boys?
Yeah.
So it was sort of different.
Yeah.
And that is what it is, Like you just sort of look around for the lads, and
Yeah.
had some good banter with Guz over the years and had a lot of fun. So valued that relationship. But I think the boys come in phenomenal nick, good condition, and I think what brought that is a little bit of a change in the guard, where it's a little bit edgy and there's a little bit of uncertainty and a little bit of unknown, and it's going to be different. That's exciting, and players, I got a bit of a saying that's probably a little bit well known, that you can't get comfy in the All Blacks or anywhere. You got to stay hungry, and I think we definitely saw that in the January camp, where guys come in and great nick, and we had some good conversations, and Razor presented some stuff around owning their super club and making sure they own their bodies and take real ownership of that, and that'll help them um, have some form through the super season, and the expectations of what they should have as being an All Black and their super club, and drive that. So that was a little bit of a scene set that we did, and as well as the testing and that sort of thing, it was a chance to have some one-on-ones and give a couple of key points and focus points for the forwards individually of what they went well out in that World Cup, and a couple of areas they can chip away at during the year for Super. So that's sort of pretty much how that January side worked.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like, of course, we always acknowledge players' careers and their contribution to the jersey, and those are, some of the guys that you were speaking about there who have now moved on to the next thing or retired as such great rugby men. But life goes on, doesn't it? You can't be too romantic, and it's the next crop, and it all moves so quickly. But it's great to hear that the boys were hungry and turned up in good nick. Let's talk a little bit about, owning their super environment and Super Rugby. Like, what have you liked about the season so far? Maybe even some of the things you're seeing, playing styles, team styles, some of the exchanges in the forwards. Like, you've been encouraged by what you've seen, and what have you seen with your far more educated eye than myself when I flick on the code?
Well, it's sort of probably the answer to that is a little bit of what we're just talking around with the players that did leave. If you give a couple of examples of some boys that are playing well, Safo, he's
Oh,
playing
yeah.
some good rugby at the moment, and Colesey's set him up.
Yeah.
Tupou Vai is exceptional. He's calling the Chiefs line out, and Guzzler's set him up.
Yeah.
So you've seen a bit of what I've seen is a little bit of a transition of um, players that were just sort of thereabouts that are now right in the front of conversations and leading in their areas where we need them to, because those men are not going to be there this year. So they've set them up to succeed. They, what we call passing the baton,
Yeah.
and they've taken it. So I've been really impressed with those couple of examples, and there's plenty more around the traps as well. You're seeing some good players really step up that have been mentored by the more experienced guys. So that's something that stuck out for me.
What about the how the teams are playing, and uh, maybe just from looking myself and watching, it's actually quite contrasting styles at times, which is quite cool, between how the Blues are playing and how the Hurricanes are playing,
Yeah.
particularly in their forward play. There's perhaps at times, and whether it's fair or not, Super Rugby's been criticised for maybe not having the physicality to set people up for Test rugby and that sort of stuff. But gosh, I look at some of these games I've watched this year between some of the New Zealand franchises and some of the Australian ones for that matter, and it is not for the faint-hearted. Some of these boys are absolutely clattering into each other. There's some new names in the front nose. Some of those Hurricanes boys. Paddy Toops is playing really well. The Blues are very physical. Like, are you encouraged in terms of setting these guys up for Test footy when you sort of you take them on and setting up your side?
Yep, I think so. I think, and you're right. There is some teams got their own sort of identities, I think, which is really good, and that's through the coaches that are leading them in their area, and that they understand their identity and what their own sort of trademarks are as a team. And I think the players this time, when you look at the finals coming up, they understand their own role within that system. So that's encouraging. But it's not test match level, and even the semis and the finals, it's not a test match level. It's a bigger contest than what the round robins have been, but it's not test matches. I remember Sammy Whitelock gave me a real good square up a few years ago when I was coaching Super, and we heading into the finals. Said, "Boys, it's going to be up there for a test match." And he called me aside. He said, "Mate, no, it's not. It's nothing like it." And now I can understand what he meant because it's not. You're not got the expectation of the nation. The playing for your country. So it's not like a test match. And that's what's unique about test match rugby. And that's the edge that we will create as we head into our first one against England. But definitely really excited about the physical contest and what Super Rugby has brought this year. I think the crowds have been right up. It's been exciting. There's been some good viewership as well by the sound of it. So I think everything's trending really well in the right direction.
Mate, job to do for you is to pick a squad for this year. I think June 26th, perhaps it's announced. Like, firstly, how do we do this? How does the coaching team, how they set up to select the side? What's your job, and perhaps some of the areas and positions that you've been looking at most closely?
Yeah, it's a bit of a change up this year where we've got all the coaches have effectively got a say. I'm taking care of the Type 5 and Lucy's, which Ray's overseeing the Lucy's as well. But ultimately, the 4-pack is my responsibility. And, Scotty Hansen's having a look at the 9s and 10s. And Jace Holland, he's doing the midfield. And Leon's sort of the outsides and that fullback positioning. So, we had a crack at the team probably a month ago for the first time in Christchurch. We were righto boys, grabbed the old pen and chuck your names up and why, and let's have a debate. And we had a really robust conversation. It was really good, and it's good for me not to just think about firstly your core roles of your set piece and your All Black forwards. It's good to hear conversations from Leon around, well, this is what I'm seeing, and this player's carry and his footwork, and Scotty's I need you to have a bit more of a think about him defensively and where that is. So it's a real good, robust discussion. It's a good change up. It's a bit fresher. And the fact that, we all get a little bit of a chance to have a say. And at the end of the day, Ray's the boss and he makes the final call. And but it's good to have all those numbers in front from different areas. So we're all open to being challenged in picking the first All Black squad of the year, which is great.
Mate, has Razor put anything on you in the sense that you have been there previously? Like, is there an additional role for you in terms of sort of transitioning in a new group? And part of the new group is a head coach as well. Has he lent on you a wee bit just to help make sure that we hit the ground running and it's as seamless as possible? Albeit, like the beautiful thing about new players, new coaches, new personnel is sometimes there's change, and change is awesome.
Yeah, I think look, I think one of the great things that one of the many great things that Ray has done, and he's done the same sort of model, I guess, with the leadership group, as he's gone, what do we protect and what do we evolve?
Yeah.
And that's just, brilliant. It's a chance for the leaders to go, well, okay, well, this is something that's been special. Challenge it at the same token, and this is something that we definitely think we can do a lot better. And there's been some real good cases of doing stuff better, and that's exactly what the All Blacks are about thriving to be the best. And I guess a little bit for myself as well, I have been able to give him a little bit of info on things and be the second set of eyes, which I always have been, and making sure he's sort of got a few things covered that maybe he hasn't thought of. It's a beautiful mind, right? That thing is. She's running through some thoughts, but um, and that's exciting. But everything's really shiny at the moment, isn't it? Because we effectively haven't done anything, haven't had our first game. So, but we will be prepared and we will be ready through everyone probably getting an opportunity to have their say.
Oh, mate, 100%. If anyone knows what's going on in Razor's head, I'm sure it's you, mate, with the amount of coaching you've done with him over the years. Like, lastly, on the selection stuff, like stuff giving you headaches. Like there's some, some. It's great to have a bunch of incumbents back. You speak to some of the hookers. There's three fantastic hookers who've been in the All Blacks before. They're all playing really, really well. There's other guys as well. Is there some areas that are giving you headaches? There's always tough calls, but will some be tougher than others?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there's genuinely some players that have been really consistent in Super, and there's generally some boys that are putting their hand up through this final series as well, which I know they will. I think, I think the loose forward selection is getting real tasty, a little bit spicy, some of those combos, which
Yeah.
is brilliant. What that mix will look like, etc. So that's a good one, and like I said at the start, sort of the front row boys and the props, how we sort of cover that and look at that. Reality, the big picture is we effectively picked three All Black teams this year: the England Series, the Rugby Championship, and the Northern Tour. So we know we're going to have a few more players than normal with the Test calendar we got, but we need that too. I think it's great heading out of a World Cup and heading into a good strong calendar, and we will have to use a few players. I've got no doubt, and I think that in our selections we're being really challenged to go three or four deep in each position. So it's good.
Mate, post Rugby World Cup, it's always, it's of course it's not just a pinnacle event, it's the absolute pinnacle event. Like, as we cycle out of that into a new cycle and some really exciting stuff ahead of us, like, what's the focus? Is it trying to change things up a bit? Is it just working with the personnel that we have in front of us and setting them up to succeed? Because there will be some changes, there will be some differences. There's some guys talked a little bit about earlier when you talk about Sam Whitelock and Brady Retallick, Guzzler, Aaron Smith, Richie Mwanga. These are guys who are, part of the furniture for a few seasons. What are you guys looking to focus on as we set up the team for this year?
Yeah, we want to have a team that's really flexible in their thinking around how we want to play and constantly wanting to evolve our game. I think that's a big one, but also understanding that when they come out of their super clubs, there's going to be some All Black language and some different standards that we believe will be, a point of difference for us, and getting them in that short space of time and not downpouring a whole lot of information to make them, overloaded in their brains, so that when they head into the first, couple of test matches, that there's not too much going on in the mind. So I think it's a balance between getting that game that can be a real step ahead, so we can drive something that's a point of difference for All Black rugby, and looking at players' skill sets across the park is a big one, but not overloading on that too much information when they come in, and so that there's too much going on in their heads, as I said before, but also really embracing a new era that's here, and getting behind it and getting the boys on board, and having a bit of fun along the way.
Love it. Look, England, geez, we're under a month now to the first Test match of the year, which is really exciting. The English are coming back out for a couple of Test matches before we go up to San Diego and play Fiji. England haven't been here for 10 years. Have you been digging into the scouting component, looking at the English side, looking at their pack? Because fascinating side to look at when you think about, how they're playing at the end of the Rugby World Cup in a bit of turmoil, but came through. The game evolved massively throughout, for those who are keeping an eye on the Six Nations and some of the results and how they're playing and who are playing in what position. Have you been putting a bit of time and energy into that side and seeing what they're going to bring?
Yeah, they're a tough Test rugby team, and I believe that they are. I'm not sure what sort of team they're gonna bring out, but I'm hoping they'll. I've got a feeling that'll be their strongest, I think, and that'll be good for us. But I've seen a lot with England. We've got a lot of respect for them. Personally, I've got a bit of a relationship with Steve Borthwick. I've always stayed in touch with him, and since we played the Lions in 2017, and when I was doing Super and with the Crusaders, and we've always stayed in touch. And maybe not haven't stayed in touch as much this year, but but enjoy having a coffee with him and a good rugby conversation. He's coaching them well, and yeah, they've got a big four pack. They've got a good mix of experience too, still in there, and they've got some big powerful ball carriers. So they're a real good test side and heading in the right direction as well. We've got full respect for them. We'll prepare really deeply on that and had a good look at Six Nations, as I'm sure they've had a good look at us, last year. But there's probably a little bit of unknown with us too, with how the preview potentially. So that brings a bit of excitement for the test, series. That's going to be pretty cool. And to be playing in Dunedin under the roof first game is pretty unique in its own, and really looking forward to that.
Mate, absolutely. Isn't that the modern rugby landscape is that you have a good relationship with the English coach? We have a Kiwi who's now going to be coaching Australia, and you're going to be playing them sort of later on in the year. I'm sure, probably across a lot of the teams, you know each other really, really well. And I think back to probably when many years ago, you didn't have as much footage to tap into. You didn't know each other as well necessarily. There's a little bit of a mystery when a team came down from the northern hemisphere. But today, we very much have the ability to scout each other massively. We know a lot about each other. We have good relationships. So does it probably come down a little bit to just, all those little 1%ers and all those little extra things that you sort of ask of the boys when they come into an All Black environment?
Yeah, it's a bit of a cliche, isn't it? Around
Yeah.
it seems to be the sort of fashion word now around small margins and
Yeah.
pressure cycles and moments. But the reality is, in the test matches, that's even less. So, and there's little wee opportunities that you can see and little wee cues that you look for. But, we've got cues as well. And that's part of the analysis program and how we preview and what we give the boys. I'll look at a lot of footage, probably, that much, huge amounts, but only show little bits because otherwise you overload them. But I'm sure both teams are doing their homework.
Mate, thank you so much for joining us on a Sunday over. I really appreciate it. Lastly, how's Sydenham progressing? You've been watching the club the club footy. Are they going to be in the mix at the end of the season? I know it's getting to the business end a little bit in some of our grassroots footy. You keep an eye on the local stuff still, where the heart is?
Yeah, well, my son's playing for Sydenham, but unfortunately broke his ankle yesterday, so he had a
No.
nasty one. So that's that put a bit of a spanner in the works for the weekend. But yeah, it's a bit of a recovery for him. But yeah, Sydenham, they're chipping away. They're up the sort of top end there at the moment. I think the club competition across it's actually been some really good rugby.
Yeah.
But always try and get round and on the sideline, and you usually get the locals try and chew your ear off. And everyone's a selector in the whole country. I always say that, even the guys at the airport, they can all have their crack at it. Everyone's a selector in New Zealand.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I'd love to. Yeah, there'd be a whole nother podcast around, advice for Jace Ryan, but I mean, that's people care, people love it. That's the beauty of the game, isn't it? And like you're talking a little bit earlier on, that's what you carry when you go into coach. But it's part of the job, isn't it? Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And it's if people are having a say or have an opinion, it's because they care.
Yeah, 100%. Mate, I won't leave you any longer. Hopefully been able to chill out for the majority of today. Good luck for the upcoming international season. Amazing to think that, the World Cup's in the rear view mirror and we're about to kick off another season. It's pretty amazing. But good luck to you and the team. It's pretty exciting to have new head coach, new assistant coaches. Really excited to hear. No doubt we'll have some debutants, some new players in the squad on June the 26th, which is also exciting. So wishing you and that group and Razor and everyone best of luck for the season ahead, and thank you for joining me today.
No worries. Pleasure to chat.
The All Blacks podcast is powered by our official cloud software partner, SAP, helping our teams in black be the best run in sports. Hosted by Rob Dunn in the Hargrave Street studio. Produced by Carl Thompson from Blue and Ginge, the podcast producers. Video editing by Mac Leesburg, graphics by Western Design, content advising from Andy Burt, and commercial manager for the podcast is Valeska Hoth. Follow the All Blacks podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcasts.